Hi there. Well, today we have a special treat for you again. We're at Gary Garza's landscaping business, and as usual, it never fails. Every time we do something outside, Gary, the wind is just blowing. So you need to stay really close to me, but I don't mind. But
Okay.
so we can pick up your voice. First of all, before we start out telling about trees and bushes and plantings, tell us where you're located.
Well, the best way to get here is to go south out of town on Highway 1. You turn right on Libertyville Road. You go about 1 mile.
Okay.
You'll come to the recycling center.
Yes.
And then you turn south, make a left-hand turn there, and you come down the gravel road 2 miles. You're right here.
Yeah, and drive slowly. This is a private joke, and when you see me downtown, I will tell you what happened to me today. So take your time coming out here, because there's just some very, very interesting ditches you can encounter. So Gary, why don't we just take a tour through your nursery and stop at some of the specimens you have, and maybe you can explain a little bit what you have and where we could plant all these wonderful things.
Okay, great.
Okay, Gary, here we are at you were saying a flowering crab.
Yeah, this is a crabapple. It's called Zumi Calocarpa, and it has white blossoms, and it's a fairly small plant in the crabapple. This is only going to be like an 18 to 20 foot tree.
Right.
So it's considered pretty much a dwarf. The great thing about this tree is that it's very disease resistant. There isn't anything on the market that's more disease resistant than this tree in the crabapple family. That's important because then they don't defoliate in the summertime, and you don't have this ugly sticky thing.
Yes, and if you drive around town during the summer in Fairfield, you'll see it, and it's not a pretty sight. So this is a great tree to plant. Tell me a little bit how this was here during the winter, I presume.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
And
the
so-
thing that this tree arrived ball-and-burlap, which means that it has a root ball attached.
Okay.
And it's put in a basket with some burlap around it and tied up, and then it was delivered this way. We put it in a system that allows us to keep it above ground. And then this is the wintertime look, which is we take and we pile a mulch around it so that it sort of fools it into thinking it's in the ground.
Okay, so
Keeps it alive.
I hope you can see it. It's quite a mount, so when it's ready to be planted and when it's ready to find a home, then you take it out, put it on your truck, and bring it to the house or the person that really wants it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about flowering crabapple trees. They're wonderful in the spring, but boy, comes fall, you have all these little apples laying all around. New varieties you can tell us about?
Oh yeah, there's
Gary, tell us a little bit about the new varieties. I know there's something new coming on the market, and with crabapple trees, it's always a mess in the fall. You have a lot of little apples laying around, and it's quite a chore to pick them up.
Yeah, crabapples are a family where there's been a lot of research done and a lot of hybridizing. And over the past 10 years or so, there have been new ones released that have come on the market that just far outweigh, the benefits far outweigh the downfall. One of the things that they've done is they've taken crabapples and they've bred out the apples. There are sterile varieties now that don't have any apples at all. There's a spring snow that's a white that it just doesn't have any apples. Another really good thing is that they've taken and they've created crabapple trees now that have apples on them, so you get that wintertime look, but they never fall off the tree.
Okay.
So they're either eaten by birds,
Great.
or they just dry up and blow away, and then you don't have this mess that you see from the older varieties.
Yeah,
underneath
into the neighbor's yard that never rakes the leaves. It blows all into his or her yard. This is great. And you have those varieties here. If somebody will come out and say, I want to have a crabapple tree, but no apples, or the apples that will stay on, you have them here.
Yes, we do. We have the newest varieties. I could tell you all the names, but they're
I probably
basically,
won't remember. But
people
just come
buy
out and
crabapples
ask.
by color.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the first thing. They want to know what color it is, and
Yes.
then if it's or not.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. There's the pink, of course. There's the white, and then a darker red.
Yes, yeah. There's a great range of colors in the pink family. There's pinks and reds and stuff, and white. And there are some varieties, one in particular, a Donald Wyman, that has 3 different colors on it at the same time.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's sort of like cotton candy.
Oh, great.
That's a nice
yeah.
one.
And then you also would give the person or the persons that come out tip what would look good with their home. I'm really into matching your landscaping with the house. You can help them there too.
Definitely.
Good.
I've been designing for 26 years. So
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So you know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Well, what do you think? Can we have a little tour through your nursery?
Yeah,
and
let's
you?
go look at some other
Good.
stuff here.
Thank you. Well, here we are. And what is going on here? Look at this. All the blossoms at this Forsythia right here on the bottom of the bush and nothing up here. What's happening?
Yeah, Karen, this is a typical example of what happens when you have a winter that is much colder than what you would expect.
Tell me about it.
You know, these plants were healed in for the winter, but there was a certain amount of snow cover. And you can pick out the snow cover line by where you see the blossoms on this plant and where you don't. You know, basically, you know, these have been nipped. Even though you see that these have green buds and they're about to leaf out, the flower buds have been nipped on that. But down where the snow was covering it, they were fine, because snow is a great insulator.
Absolutely.
So here we got just the bottom half of the bush is blooming. And people are going to see this all over town. They're going to say, you know, it's going to look, just the bottom half of the bush is going to bloom.
Yeah.
It'll look a little odd.
Yeah, but nothing to worry about, really.
No, it's, you know, this tree is, you know, this bush is very healthy. It just happened to lose the flowers in this season.
Yeah. Any damage? We had such a horrible winter. Did you lose a lot of trees and bushes this year?
Yeah, we lose a certain amount at the nursery here every year. We didn't lose so much directly to the cold.
Yeah.
And we did have some tender varieties that didn't make it, but a lot of the things we lost in the cold had to do with rabbits coming by and chewing on it because it was a tough winter.
Yeah. So you need a big hound or something.
Yeah, despite everything we do, they still get into some things.
Sure. You're out in the country and that happens. So let's take a little bit more of a walk and see what else you have here.
Okay. Karen, this is a red sunset maple. It's in the red maple family. This is one of the newer varieties of red maple that have been out. This particular plant is blooming right now.
Can you see
trees
that?
also have blooms, and at this time of year you'll see these very bright red colored, buds sticking out. And it's not just the leaf bud. This plant is actually blooming right now. And this is very noticeable. The larger the tree gets, the more it looks like it's just a cloud of red. But red maples, like every other tree in town, this is actually late for this to be blooming.
Is it really this year?
Yeah, everything's late this year, but they're blooming right now. So if you get out, sometimes on the sidewalk you'll see these little blossoms falling.
Yes,
you see those around. But this is actually the bloom of a red maple.
Great.
I think it's an attractive feature that most people don't think about when they're buying a tree.
Yeah. Especially we're so anxious this time of the year to have something blooming. I know I am, and it's such a joy just to see a little bud anywhere. So tell us a little bit more about this tree. Good location anywhere. Your advice on if I would come out and say, oh, I love this tree.
Yeah, red sunset is a variety that likes sun. I wouldn't plant this in a shady situation.
Okay.
So it's a sun-loving tree. It gets about 40 feet or so it's medium size in terms of shade trees. But and also the soil requirements. I would not plant this in a strictly straight clay tight soil. I would use something that has a little air in it, more like a sandy loam soil. You're going to get your best growth in that situation. So avoiding clay is good, but other than that, tremendous red fall color.
Yeah, beautiful.
And fast growing. These are very fast growing trees.
So if you want to have a fast growing tree, this would be to go in color in the fall.
Yeah.
So great. Okay.
So we'll take a look.
Okay, what else? Lilac bush. Interesting.
Yeah, lilacs. One of my favorite plants.
Yes.
Lilacs are about the first thing to leaf out. And lilacs are great in a way because you can see the flowers that are going to be on the plant as far back as last October. These buds stay on and they stay real fat in the wintertime. But as you can see, the result of that is they break out very early.
Yes.
This is a nice plant. This has got leaf buds on it and flower buds, and it's got last year's blossoms on it also.
So
This one here, when we didn't get this pruned off.
Yeah, whole science lessons right there in the bush.
Yeah, this is
Stages.
actually, when they're small like this, it's good to prune these off after they're done blooming. That just helps the plant grow a little faster. But you can see in here, they've got, this is the flower buds that are down here. This one's going to be loaded down with blossoms.
Yeah. What color?
Let's see, this is Ellen Wilmot, so this will be white.
White. Beautiful. And then the scent, just gorgeous. So
And we have every color of the rainbow out here in lilacs, of course. That's a plant that's useful in many different ways, so we stock, a bunch of them.
Good.
I like them, and then we stock a bunch more.
Good. Any advice where to plant them? Shade, sun?
You know what's great about lilacs is that they really don't care what soil they're in.
Really?
It doesn't matter what soil you have in your yard right now. There's a lilac that we can get for you that'll work. In terms of sun, they will grow in any light conditions, but if you have 50% sun or more, then you'll get the best blooming. So they grow in very deep shade. They just don't bloom very well. So you want to have some sun there so that they'll bloom.
Yeah, and it's actually a very old-fashioned plant. Remember grandma's and great-grandma's gardens, there was always a lilac, and usually it was a blue, light lavender one that I remember.
Which smells terrific.
Oh, yes.
These things smell great. And there's new varieties of these too. The interesting thing, there's people out there hybridizing plants.
Yes.
They have come up with non-suckering lilacs.
Okay.
The regular French hybrid types that smell great and look great.
Yeah.
They have non-suckering bushes now, so you can plant them in tighter spots, and you won't have them, colonizing and going all over the place. So.
Yeah, and you can see that in older homes when you drive around, and there's old lilac. You can't call them lilac bushes anymore. They're lilac trees, and all these sprouts all over the place. So, if you get one of those, talk to Gary. You can tell him what to get.
Yeah, and there's a procedure that you can go through to revitalize and rejuvenate older lilacs that have trunks on them, like your arm, You can do a procedure of that, and we'd be happy to explain that to anybody. So.
Good. So this is really a good place to come out and get advice and stock up your garden and beautify your garden. And you mentioned that before. You also design gardens.
Yes,
and,
we do.
And do landscaping. So that would be a full service for you. One-step shopping right here in Fairfield again.
It's fun to come out here too.
Yeah, and then also bring the family. I think you have children, so it's
we do. Our
great...
kids love to have other kids come out here. They run around, have a good time.
Good.
And,
So we give you direction. It's not hard to find, and come out and see Gary, and he's just a book by itself, full advice.
Thanks.
Well, Gary, here we are. I suppose you call them trees. They look like sticks in the ground. What in the world is this?
Yeah, this is a Kentucky coffee tree. As you can see, they have a very rough wintertime appearance.
Yes.
There's just some sticks here. That's because one of the habits of this plant is that it sends out compound leaves. The leaf actually looks like it's a bunch of branches with leaves on it. They're doubly compound. There's branches and then branchlets and then the leaves.
Yeah,
so,
like the chestnut tree.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they fall off, they really fall off. But this particular plant this is a great tree. It has a shape of an upright oval. It gets about 40 feet tall. So you can plant it very close to a house, and it'll shade, areas of the garden and stuff, or shade the house. But you can get it real close so that you can, use it, much closer than like you could a maple or something that has a very big fat head.
Yeah. Where does the name come from? We can't grow coffee, can we?
No, this has a bean though that was used as a coffee substitute by early settlers and stuff.
Well, they probably did that in Europe too. If it's a substitute.
Yeah.
Does it grow in Europe?
That I'm not certain.
Okay.
Of. I do know it's native to this country.
Yeah,
so.
I know my grandfather roasted all kinds of things. I don't know what they were, but it smelled good.
Yeah. Well, it's slow to get started. It transplants easily. It's slow to get started, but unlike a lot of trees, this is sort of an exception. This tree grows faster as it gets older, which is usually the opposite. But
Right.
The older this gets, the faster it grows. and they're great trees. They're not a lot seen around, but they should be more planted than they are.
Well, I think you'll take care of that, and I'm looking forward to seeing all these trees all over Fairfield. So come on out and get one of those trees. It'd be wonderful.
Well, one other interesting and unusual item we have out here, this is called a golden rain tree. And this is a tree that, again, you don't see around too much, but it really has a lot of attributes that make it worth planting around here. Again, our rough winter habit, this is pretty much how they look in the wintertime. They're a little rough, but they have a medium green leaf, and this plant has yellow blossoms, and it blooms right in the middle of the summer. So at a time when there's no other tree doing anything, you've got this big yellow cloud of blooms on it, which makes it very nice. And it's a small tree. It only gets about 25 or 30 feet tall, so you can tuck it into places in your yard that you wouldn't be able to use in bigger plants. Very easy to transplant, not very particular as to soil type, with the exception of a very tight clay.
Okay.
I would amend the soil if you're going to try and use it in that situation, but not very particular.
Yeah. So when you come out here, kind of tell Gary what kind of soil you have, or have him come out. You would come out and look at the soil.
We stop out and look at people's places all the time.
So make sure you have the right soil for the right plant. That's the first thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually your number one consideration in Jefferson County is what type of soil you have. We can usually work around just about anything else.
And we have
even that if we go to enough extreme.
And we have some areas that are really bad with clay. Is that correct?
Yes. Over on the MIU campus, I think, is about the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They have a very tight clay that's been compacted from students using it for years, and it's an adventure to try and dig a hole.
We should have a hole digging contest out there and see who's the fastest. Who survives? Who survives the dig holing?
But fortunately, most of Fairfield has a pretty decent soil.
So good news, you can plant almost anything, right?
Yeah.
Except the tropical palms and things like that.
We spend a lot of time selecting these trees and other plants so that they're going to do well here. Which is why we guarantee them. We back them up because we know that they'll do well. Not everything, but most everything.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Iowa has a rough climate for growing.
Yes.
Hard winters, hot summers, and so when you want to buy a tree or a shrub, you want to make sure that it will survive and live here so you can enjoy it for a long time to come. And maybe your grandchildren can enjoy that too. It's important to plant ahead for generations. A little bit something new in the evergreen variety. And what do you have here, Gary?
Well, this is a weeping white pine, which it's a natural dwarf, first of all, and it is in the white pine family, so it does very well around here. It's actually not quite as fast growing as the normal columnar type, but the interesting thing about this plant is that you can tuck it in again next to a house or something and have a bigger evergreen there than what you normally would, and it has this natural cascade to it. And if you if you trim it at the right time of year, you can create just about any type of an effect that you'd like to have here. We've planted these around town and done some topiary with it, where we shelf them out and changed it and stuff, and very close to a house, very close to an entrance. If you've got a little courtyard or some protected area, it'll do very well.
Yeah, rock garden, it would look
good. Rock garden. It has a graceful look to it, so it relaxes you, when you have this in a setting. If you were to put this with a little small water feature or something like that, it'd be a perfect place to sit down and have a glass of iced tea.
Great. Or other things.
Yeah.
Folks, this is really television live because this is tree planting in action, and I promise you I'll be real quiet and let you do whatever you do best, and that's planting trees and making Fairfield beautiful. Thank you for joining us, and I'm hoping I can come back and you can teach us some more things about growing things in Fairfield.
Yeah,
Thank you,
bet.
Gary.
This has been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to do my favorite thing, which is to plant a tree here. And this is we've got a little redbud seedling that we grew out at our place, and a lady asked to have planted in her yard. So I'm going to dig a hole here for this tree. We're going to basically go through the steps to get this in the ground correctly, and then you can do this on your own at home. So we'll start by digging a hole, which won't take very long because this is a small tree. First thing we're going to do is we're going to approximate the size of the hole that we need by taking out this initial soil. And then we're going to take a little bit more out because we want to have an area that's around the root ball to actually, soften it up. So there's something for these roots to grow right out into immediately. This is a piece of trunk from an old tree that was here a long time ago.
So the soil should be really good since there's old roots and things underneath that have decomposed.
Yeah, there's about 4 inches of topsoil here.
Great.
So this is pretty good. Yeah. Sometimes these old roots are in there and you take those out and it's real nice and fluffy, almost like compost.
Yep.
So we've got a hole started here that's bigger around than the actual root ball. And it's also going to be just a little bit deeper than the root ball.
Okay.
So we can have some soft soil around here.
Can you see the hole, Susan? Okay.
That's about right.
Okay.
Now down at the bottom of this hole, what we've got here is real loose soil. It's just been, fluffed up by the action of the shovel moving it. It's also much bigger around than this root ball. So now we're going to put the tree in here. This is our little redbud. We'll take this out of here very carefully. One of the advantages of growing these in containers is that they just pop right out.
Mm-hmm. See?
So here's our
Nicely.
root ball. Now this is something that you want to do. You want to check for the roots around the outside here. Sometimes they'll be curling around and you don't want that.
So what would you do then,
So
Gary?
then we take out a knife or anything that you got that's sharp like this. And all you have to do is score it.
Okay.
You just go and score it around here like this.
Uh-huh.
And on the bottom a little bit. And we're ready to go. So we'll put this in. She picked out this tree so this would come out away from the house. See how this is growing?
And guess what we have in the background, Gary? An old lilac bush.
Hey. So now what I'm going to do is, see, I've got the tree set in here in about the right location. So then we're going to take and we're going to fill in some loose soil just around the outside of it.
Okay.
Use some of this good stuff we just dug up. Having this extra area around the outside of this is going to allow us to settle the dirt down around these roots.
Mm-hmm.
So initially what we want to do is we want to get these air pockets out of here so that the roots can grow right out into the existing soil. Now if we had turned out that this had been a very, very tight clay or something, we might want to amend it, by putting in some compost or rotted manure, things like that. But this is good, so we don't have to do that.
Looks like nice soil.
And redbuds are native to Iowa, so
Yes.
they
So this little
put up with
fellow,
all sorts of stuff.
yeah, this little fellow will do well here.
Okay, so now we haven't filled up this hole all the way. The reason why that is because we want to water it now. We want all this water to go right down here where the tree is. So put this in, spread it around here where that area is. You see how that goes down?
Yeah.
We just removed those air pockets in that soil and watered the tree at the same time. So now, see, that's settled down. Then we'll put some more soil over the top here, back up to the original soil line. At this time, nice thing about putting this in this way also is that you have an opportunity to settle the plant exactly where you want it. If you put all the soil in and then you water it, it's all loosey-goosey. But this is tight that we can use to actually make sure the plant stays where we want it.
Oh, look at this. There's some kind of beetle in there. Look at that. I don't know what it is, but it's sure a big one.
Okay, so we got our soil around here. And we just very carefully, just going to push this down just a little bit. Not a lot. Just a little bit, a little pressure. Make sure it stays right where we want it.
Nice.
Now, final step. We don't want the mower to come along and take this out, right?
Yes.
Or the weed eater, or all those other things.
Or
that
the
people
teenage
use.
son.
Yeah.
Or the very overtired husband. Or whoever does your lawn.
This
If
is
we
some
would do it,
cedar
it'd be
that's been ground up.
Yeah.
And we'll put a ring around this tree.
And it also makes it look so nice.
Yeah, this is actually useful for the tree because it keeps down the grass competition, so the roots will get out faster. And when you water it, the water stays there for a while.
Right.
You know, the sun isn't beating down there and drying it back out. So you keep it low around the trunk, and then a little bit higher right here, and you've got a natural pan to water. And then we'll take this excess soil away, and we got it.
There you see it, folks. One of the newest plantings in Fairfield. And I encourage you to do that a lot. So we have a beautiful city. We already have one, but this would add so much. And redbud, we all love redbuds. So, well, this really now concludes our show. Thank you for watching, and now I'll see you soon. Good night, Fairfield.